This is a time of year when I usually am a little bit more relaxed as long as students are generally following directions. If you try to be too uptight about rules at this time of year, then it usually sends them into more problems and it's not worth it. So it's time of year to just slow down and enjoy your students, enjoy socializing with them. All of these things that I shared with you today are the types of activities that the kids get to talk to each other while they're doing them. You get to walk around, see what they're doing, maybe see a talent in a student artistic wise that you hadn't seen before, that's not part of your regular everyday experience with that child. It's an opportunity for you to talk to them about what their Christmas or holiday plans are of any. And of course, I'm not trying to be insensitive to any other holidays. Our particular school district is predominantly Christian, celebrating Christmas. Whenever you have other students in your class, please be aware of whatever their personal beliefs are and the holidays that they celebrate. And if you are not allowed to celebrate Christmas, then you can make it a winter theme. Do what works for your students. Of course, always, consider the students that you have sitting in your class. But being in the area that I'm in, then Christmas is the main holiday that my students participate and celebrate. So these are activities that have worked for me over the years, but feel free to adapt anything to the needs that you have for your own classroom. I hope these have been helpful. Welcome back to my channel. I am the trauma-informed teacher. Trauma-informed teaching is about practices that help teachers and any busy working people manage their family time, their personal time, and their work time better so that they can have more left over for the things that they love and the people that they love to spend time with. But today I'm focusing on those last few days of school. I teach middle school, and as you know, the end of the semester can be really crazy. The students get amped up. They're excited about all the holiday activities and events that they're attending, and it's really difficult to get their attention. So I'm going to share with you some holiday activities that I have chosen. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science. These activities could be easily adapted to younger students. Not really doing anything that would be like too terribly difficult, although with a couple of them you might need some extra hands just because the students would need a more adult support. But I'm going to go ahead and share these with you. Let me share my screen. This is a time of year when you really do not want to attempt to teach anything new unless the students are just exploring it. So what I did was I took a look at my standards and what I was teaching in each grade level. And I also took a look at what do I plan on teaching when we come back in January. Anything that I can do to give students an extra review activity in an experiential way that they're going to enjoy is a great choice. Also, anything that I can do that's discovery learning that would set the stage for January, something that's going to be memorable so I know that I can go back to talking about it when we come back in January. Those are also good choices. So right now for my 6th graders, we have just finished an Earth Science unit, but we're working on a year-long project through Journey North that has to do with plant processes. And so anything that I can do related to plants is great for them as a review so they don't forget what we learned before our most current unit. And going back into January, my 6th graders are going to be planting the tulips. And I know you're saying January planting tulips, but I live in Eastern North Carolina. So our tulip bulbs have to be forced. So we actually plant in the dead of winter because without that really cold time, they're not going to bloom. So I want my students to have that experience of remembering what they learned about plant processes right before we do that planting project. The 7th grade students are working on forces in motion, but there are some fun labs that I normally do with them that I just would not ask a sub to do because I know the students could tend to have behavior problems and I don't want to ask anyone to manage those types of things as just a substitute. But we talked about Newton's laws, but the thing that we are getting ready to talk about is like electricity. So I think it would be a great idea for me to find something related to electricity to set the stage for our learning later on in the winter time. And 8th graders, they have finished up their biotechnology unit. If you watched my previous video, which I'll link up in the corner in the cards, we just had someone come in from our local university to share with them some information about how biotechnology is used in medical and agricultural ways. But when they come back in January, we're going to start a new unit, and we're going to be working pretty much the second semester with things that have to do with chemistry. We are going to talk about like water chemistry and the biology of systems in the water, but their big important unit that they have to learn is about the periodic table and chemical reactions and chemical changes, things like that. So I thought any kind of an experiment that I could do that would help them remember what they learned in elementary school and even in 6th grade about chemical reactions would be a good choice for me. So first and foremost, I'm going to start off the week with a review, and this can be done in a couple of different ways. One way that I love to do review in my class is by using online games. And probably most of you are familiar with some of these, but I use Kahoot. Hold on. I also use Blookit, and I like Blookit because sometimes when you're using games, after a while, the students can get a little bit over a certain type of game. And the nice thing about Blookit is that there are so many different types of games. So Blookit is a really simple thing to get started with. You just click here and you can create a free account. Everything is free. At this point, they have not asked money for anything. And then once you have your account, you would log in as a teacher. I just log in with Google. All right, so they're always coming up with new things. And when you first log in, it will tell you the different new things on the right-hand side. But just for sake of time, I'm not going to go over all that. So what you can do is you can create a game. But if you're new, the best thing to do is discover. And to be honest with you, I haven't ever created one before, just because there's so many sets out here that it's not really even necessary. Why reinvent the wheel, right? So they do have fun things, like if you had some extra minutes in your class time, like you finished a lesson and you wanted to do like a trivia that's just fun, holiday themed, they have some things like that on here. And there's like Christmas movies and things like that. But if I want to search for a set related to something that we're reviewing, I could do like biotechnology for my 8th graders. And you have all different kinds, and you can open it up. And I would highly suggest that before you play one, that you open it up, because biotechnology is something that's done in college level classes, but it's also done in high school and it's done in middle school. So you want to make sure that your questions are not going to be over the head of your students. And this one does not go very well with what we learned, because this is about leadership in biotech. So, let me see if I can find. Sometimes I'll type in like, I'll type in my grade level too. I'll type in biotechnology 8th grade, and sometimes things will come up. So this one would be good. So once you find one that's good, you click either solo or you click host. And solo is when you're just playing by yourself. You could do that if you're doing it with the class as a whole group, but I actually like to do it this way so that students can be more engaged. So you click host and you have options. You can do different styles of games for the same question. So this is going to load and it's going to show us all of our types of games that are available. All right, so select a game mode. So all of these, oh, it looks like they do have a Plus membership now. I knew that would happen eventually, that you can pay to get extra, but there's so much here that it's not even necessary. My students love crypto, because crypto is like where they can hack into each other's passwords and steal some of their points. So they love that one. We've done Fishing Frenzy. They've got quite a few new ones here. What else do they have? We've done Battle Royale. They like that one. Some of them will show you the questions that all the students are doing on the screen, and they'll all do them at the same time. Other ones will have the students do questions in a different order, and then you have to walk around and monitor what questions students are seeing on their screen. But all of them will give you some assessment data at the end, and that part is free, which I love. So when I go in, let's say I picked this. Hold on. I'm gonna have to get back out of it. I can click either by themselves or in teams. And then what will happen with this one is I can go down and I can select, it's not letting me page down on my screen. Oh, yes, it is. I can select how long I want them to play and whether the students use random names or whether they can make up their names. And I usually tell my students so that I know who knows things. If I'm using it for assessment, I tell them, your name has to be somewhere in the name that you type in there, but you can put fun things in front of it or behind it. And of course, with middle school, we have to talk about what's appropriate and what's not. But so this kind of the energy levels on this game will, however many energy levels you give them will determine how long they get to play, because it's basically like lives. So when they lose, then they lose a life. And if you put 10, then it's going to last longer than if you put, 3 or 5. So some of these games you can actually assign for them to do on their own. So it would be a good center for them to do. If you like to work in centers in your classroom, or if you're doing blended learning models in your classroom. But each one of them is a little bit different, so you kind of have to play through it. And then when you click host now, it will go ahead to this screen and the students get a code, and it's got fun music at Christmas time. And I can turn that off if I don't like it. But anyway, the students will have a game ID, and we'll go in and enter the game ID. Hold on. And then you'll see their names pop up here. So that's how it works. So I'm going to get out of this now. Let me see if I can go back to the main screen. All right, so when I go in here on the left-hand side, when I first went in, there's my sets that you've created. There's your favorites that you can select. Your history will give you information about what you've played. So I can go in here and I can check and see how my students did. And not only does it give you an overall class percentage, but if you scroll down, it will give you individual percentages, and you can click on the student, and this is the upgrade. So now you have to pay if you want a detailed game report. And I don't know how much it is. I'm going to have to find out. I will put it in the comments below because I'll find out before I edit this video. But it will tell you the questions that they missed. And you can actually, I think you can look at correct and incorrect. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see what upgrade is. There you go. So plus is $2.99 and you get advanced reports. It used to be free, but a lot of people have done that since COVID is over now. And then you can, you have to pay for it for a year. So it's $35.88 for a year. And if you do it monthly, it's $4.99 per month. So it costs a little bit more, but you can cancel any month. You don't have to do it the whole year. So I think it's worth it. But you can just use the free version if you don't need a breakdown. It'll just give you an overall, so you can kind of get a quick guide on how your students are doing. But when you buy the enhanced reports will actually show you the question and which questions they missed and what they actually thought was the correct answer. So it's great formative assessment data and data that you can go over with your students to remediate if you do like a small group or even a class remediation. All right, so the other thing that I do when I do these games right before the holidays, anytime we're getting ready to go off on break, is I like to go buy like candy canes or something like that, or at Halloween, just like Halloween candy. And if the students have like candy when they're doing something that's review, it just makes them like in such a good mood. And just something simple like that doesn't cost very much, can actually like change the whole feeling of your classroom on a week that could be like stressful or the kids are just like, we don't want to be here, you know, could we just go home now? All of a sudden they're happy and they're enjoying their time. So the game atmosphere is a nice atmosphere for your classroom those last few days. And the candy just adds that extra little something, but you don't have to do it, but it's just something that I like to do. And also, you know, make sure if you have any kids with allergies that you have options for those kids as well. The other thing I would say is if you don't want to do a game, you can still just do the worksheet, but let the kids work with a partner and let them pick who they want and give them the candy. And so they're sucking on their candy cane, they're working with a partner, and they're happy. So that's the first suggestion that I have. And that's what I'm planning on doing on Monday. Okay, so what am I doing for my ornaments for different grade levels to connect to my curriculum? For 6th grade, we've been doing this plant unit, and we're going to be doing it throughout the whole year. And when we come back in January, we're going to be planting tulip bulbs. So going into January, I know that my students are getting ready to come back to the plant unit again, to circle back to it. So I want to go over characteristics of plants. Well, for our ornament, I'm going to tie that together with that lesson by creating an ornament that's pressed flowers. And let me go ahead and share that with you. So I want to take different types of evergreen sprigs and mix them in with Christmassy colored flowers to create these ornaments. And this is just contact paper. I'm not sure that we'll use cardboard. We'll see if I can get any, like, we may use cardboard if I can get some nice looking circles there, but because this isn't elementary, it's middle school, I definitely want it to look like really classy. So I'm going to see what types of ornament holders I can find, and then we will just press the sprigs and the flowers and make them look beautiful for their ornaments, and they'll get to take those home and keep those forever. All right, so for 7th grade, we're doing forces in motion. And one thing that we're going to be covering next semester is electricity. So I have found these ornaments that actually have a simple circuit in them. It uses these little peg lights. And then the student just creates their Christmas tree, decorates it the way they want, and then the peg light star will come on when everything is connected, and it uses a like a little battery, a coin cell battery. So you just find an inexpensive pack of coin cell batteries, and students would have to sew for this. So you have to make sure that you teach students how to do that in a safe way. But I will leave the link to this below. I may end up doing a variation on this to make it even simpler for my 7th graders. We'll see. Or maybe I'll have like 2 options, and the ones that are like more crafty or more determined to figure it out can do this one. And then I was thinking of doing, I've seen ones that had like Christmas bulb, like basically it's a string of Christmas bulbs that you make out of felt, and then you have the little lights in each one, and you just connect the wire to the battery at the end, and that's all it is. So they just move the wire over, bend the wire over, the copper wire, and that causes it to turn on. So that would be a fun thing for them to hang on their tree and remember their studies in electricity. And then for my 8th graders, I want to do stained glass ornaments, and this is to review what they learned about physical and chemical changes and the difference between those. This is just a simple activity where they can take pipe cleaners and make any shape that they want, and then you use those plastic stained glass beads that are for making like sun catchers. You can buy those in like Walmart, any craft supply store, and they're really inexpensive. They make whatever design they want, and this shape inside of the ornament is made from any cookie cutter that you have. So I'll probably insist that my students keep theirs at a certain size so I have enough room, just because these are going to need to like harden overnight, and you have to think about how many you're doing and where you're going to be laying these out until you give them back to the students. But that is going to be a great segue into their chemistry unit coming in the second semester, just making sure what they remember, first of all, from what we did in the 6th grade, because in 7th grade, we do more physical science and as far as forces and motion and energy than we do like, the chemistry part of physical science. So it's kind of something that I always have to do every year when I get ready to teach my periodic table and my chemistry unit in 8th grade. I have to check to see what they remember from before. So this is a great way for me to kind of do that, like a pre-assessment, but the kids are having fun and they don't even know that it's like a test. Idea number 3 is to connect something in your lessons to something that you're getting ready to do in 2nd semester, which I've already been talking about. But going back to the 6th grade, the Evergreen Science, I found this great site. This is a lesson plan that's talking about types of evergreen trees. And one of the things that we do with students is talk about different types of plants and their characteristics, how they have similar processes and how some of them behave differently. And evergreens are a really interesting species of plant to study because of the fact that, they don't lose their leaves. And why is that compared to a deciduous tree? How does that work? But also a lot of students don't realize that there's so many different types. If you live in an area that naturally has lots of different evergreens, you can just go out and pick them. I'm probably going to have to search for mine, drive around a little bit, maybe even pick a few up. But they're readily available this time of year. And one thing you can do is you can have them observe them and discuss them and talk about good observations, reviewing that qualitative observation and quantitative observation vocabulary. But then you can also have them group them by characteristics and explain to you how they've grouped them, and then show them how to make either a cladogram or a dichotomous key. So cladograms and dichotomous keys, those aren't directly in our curriculum, but making good observations and communicating those observations with others and evaluating others' observations, that's all part of our scientific process that we push in every grade level. And so it's a really good thing to do this time of year because it's kind of the backbone of our curriculum. And you want to review those things that are the backbone at this time of year when things can be a little crazy and you can't introduce anything new. So it's a good thing to touch back to, but it also is going to extend their thinking into another area because now they're using something they haven't used before. So it's that process of teaching something, assessing it, reteaching, and then putting it away and coming back to it later on and transforming it into another area that actually deepens student learning and helps them to really recall what you're doing from year to year to year. So this is an awesome activity for that I'm going to be using in the 6th grade. In 7th grade for electricity, we're going to be making spinning Christmas trees. And those are another circuit activity. So they'll get 2 circuit activities. And mainly the biggest thing that I have to get students to understand, electricity is just a very small part of the curriculum. They need to understand the difference between an open and closed circuit, what those look like, and when the light is on, like in which case is the light on, because students don't understand what happens. Like if they go up to the wall and they flip on the light switch, they don't understand what's happening on the inside of the wall, like to the wiring. So they need to understand that concept and how the energy travels and how energy is a type of force. And so we're going to discuss that as we do this activity. So here are the spinning Christmas trees. You can see that they only require some basic art materials, whatever you have. You don't have to use exactly the same thing. You're going to need paper and something to color the trees with, and then the copper wire and the AA batteries. That is basically all you need. And I think they have like a coil down here that they've attached to it. I don't know if they glued that on. I haven't read all the directions yet, but pretty simple. And I have everything in my room except for the batteries. So that's all I'll need to pick up. So it's a simple prep activity. You just put everything out for the students on trays and explain how to do it, and then they go for it. So it's going to keep them busy. It's going to keep their hands busy. They're going to be interested in lighting up their trees, and it's just a lot of fun, and making their trees spin, and it's just a lot of fun. So simple circuit activity for my 7th graders. For 8th graders, another activity that would go with the chemistry unit, physical and chemical changes, is this activity about candy canes dissolving in different solutions. So this helps the students practice what they've learned about the scientific process. It's called the candy cane breakdown. And you just put different liquids. So you can have like vinegar, water, and oil. Let me see if there's any others. They've got 4 there. Oh, hot water, cold water, vinegar, and like vegetable oil, and see which one is actually going to break the candy cane down the fastest. They're going to make their predictions. They're going to go through all of the steps of the scientific process and make a hypothesis and see whether their hypothesis was right. Then they're going to collect data. So this gives them a lot of practice with that, which is the backbone of our curriculum, and also introduces them back to the physical and chemical changes that we're going to be talking about so much in the 2nd semester. All right, and then last but not least, another idea is to make Christmas slime. Christmas slime is just something that's fun for the students. Make sure that you have a good way to package it before you send it home, and make sure you have a discussion with your students that are on the bus about what they can and cannot do on the way home. But Christmas slime is a great way to show how substances react to one another. And you can really just have a lot of fun being creative with it. So this recipe here has lots of cute little sequins and tiny bells and art supplies in it. So you can just use up whatever extras that you have, or you can buy some specifics that are for the season. But this one is just using glue, liquid starch, and water. So it's a great project because it doesn't take very many materials, making it really handy. And of course, make sure that your students help you with the cleanup. That's the only thing, is because it does have a lot of glue in it. You need to make sure you have some towels nearby and some warm water for cleanup. So those are my activities that I'm planning for the last week. Of course, we do have some special things that are going on, like the students will be practicing for their Christmas program. All the grade levels are singing a song in that. So that's going to take up some time. I would have also just some random Christmas, crossword puzzles and word finds and some worksheets, just like I did when I was an elementary teacher, just some little things that are sitting off to the side that if for some reason we are done with everything and there's nothing to do, here's something they can work on, but you're not like super concerned about them getting it finished, and they can take it or they can throw it away when they walk out the door. And, it's just a way for them to kind of like have a focus in those extra minutes that we might find ourselves with. You're either going to have 2 scenarios. You're going to have not enough time to do something, or you're going to end up finishing early, and then you don't want the students to figure out what to do when they're all amped up. You always need to have that little extra thing in your back pocket that you can just pull out, and it's something fun for them to do. If you have a fast finisher, it's something for them to do. And of course, that gives them something to keep their hands busy while they're like socializing with their friends, which this is a time of year when I usually am a little bit more relaxed as long as students are generally following directions. If you try to be too uptight about rules at this time of year, then it usually sends them into more problems, and it's not worth it. So it's time of year to just slow down and enjoy your students. I hope these have been helpful to you. I hope you are enjoying the last few days with your students. Make sure that you have fun. Don't just be rushing around and forget that this is a time for you to connect with your students and build those relationships, and just build your classroom community as a safe space where we enjoy learning and we enjoy each other. As always, don't forget to work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. Bye-bye.